Good evening, black people and all allies fighting for black liberation, black prosperity, and black joy. I'm Charles Blow, and welcome to Prime. New York City Mayor-elect Eric Adams campaigned as a tough-on-crime law and order candidate. He touted his experience as an NYPD officer and captain to convince voters that he was New York's best bet to curb violent crime. Some crimes surged during the pandemic. Between September 2020 and September 2021, New York experienced a 6% increase in robberies, an 18% increase in felony assaults, and a 2% increase in overall crime. Adams says he will reinstate the plainclothes anti-crime units that Mayor de Blasio disbanded last year.
I'm going to put in place a plainclothes anti-gun unit to go after the guns and gangs. They go together. We're going to give them the tools to go on the ground to prevent it, as well as give those young people opportunities, because it can't be just heavy-handed policing. It's giving opportunities.
While many voters have bought into Adams' plan to deal with crime, his plan to reinstate the anti-crime units has drawn the ire of activists. During a closed-door meeting with Black Lives Matter of Greater New York, Adams clashed with the group on the methods historically employed by task force like the Anti-Crime Unit. Following the meeting, the group's leader, Hawk Newsome, warned that there would be riots and bloodshed if Adams brings back the units. Hawk Newsome joins us for further discussion of those comments, and we are also joined by activist and co-founder of Campaign Zero, DeRay Mckesson. So, Hank, first I want to start with you. First, I just want to clear up something about your group and for whom you speak. The global network of Black Lives Matter says that you and your group have no affiliation with them. You're not president of any of their chapters. So is the Black Lives Matter of Greater New York a separate entity unto itself, only speaking for you and its members?
Hey, brother. I just want to correct you on one small thing. My name is Hawk, like the bird, not Hank.
Oh,
yeah, right on.
So
sorry.
How you
feeling?
Good.
Here's the thing. We founded Black Lives Matter Greater New York in 2016 as an independent organization. Since then, we have founded the Wildflower Charter School in the Bronx. We've passed 7 pieces of legislation. We were the first people to endorse AOC, who didn't reach out for us, but we have 6 candidates that we endorsed that are going into the city council. We fed 25,000 people last year during COVID quarantine. So no, we are not affiliated with the Black Lives Matter Global Network. We share some of their principles, but we disagree on a lot as well. So we are definitely an independent organization.
All right, thanks for laying that out. So now I want to get to your comments during the meeting of, hopefully you're being quoted accurately here, that there will be bloodshed, violence in the streets. Explain that to us.
I'm so happy you had me to get the opportunity to explain this to people. That plainclothes, that anti-crime unit is the unit responsible for the death of Eric Gardner, for Amadou Diallo, and you remember Sean Bell was shot 50 times on his wedding night. Right? This is a very dangerous unit. It's only a matter of time before they kill an unarmed black people. And what do you think is going to happen? Like, people are fed up. Here, we have paved the way for a large amount of black politicians to be elected. And he's the second black mayor in New York. And he's coming in talking like Giuliani. And he's going to lead the city to ruin. And he has the opportunity to do something really brilliant, which is attack crime how it needs to be attacked at its core. He needs to attack poverty, because poverty is the mother of all crime. You know,
right?
People need jobs.
But I just want to be clear. But Hawk, I just want to be clear about something. You weren't threatening violence if he makes this policy move. If I understand what you're saying correctly, you're saying that if this policy move is made, it is a dangerous thing, which will invariably lead to more carnage against black bodies, and the response to that is likely to be violence. Am I characterizing what you're saying right? Because the way it comes across in the writing, when people write about it, is that you went in and you threatened the mayor of New York, the mayor-elect of New York, that if he did this, that the response, I guess, from you or from somebody else would be violence.
Well, It's great that the media manipulated the situation, because now we're here to have this conversation. We're here to say that it should be former gang members and formerly incarcerated people patrolling our streets, mediating situations, stopping these violent things from happening. We're here to say that this money should be rerouted from the police to programs to keep kids off of the street, to programs to teach kids tech, coding, entrepreneurship skills. Now is the time to have the real conversation.
DeRay, let's pull back a little bit to the national picture. The election night was not a great night for police reform and efforts to defund the police, whatever people make of that phrase. It just wasn't a good night. I guess one bright spot was Cleveland. Although there were some mayoral positions that were filled with progressives around the country, there were also some major roles that were filled by moderates, like in New York, and even conservatives, like in Virginia. What do you see as the path forward for police reform in the country with what happened on Tuesday with election night?
Yeah, so zooming out, there have been a lot of good things that have happened since last June. 19 states passed laws restricting use of force for the police. It's the single biggest reduction of the power of the police in U.S. history. There were 5 states that restricted no-knock raids, which is important. I think one of the things that happened with the last round of elections, and even when you think about Eric Adams' recent comments, is there was a spike in homicides across almost every major city in America at the same time. We've never seen that happen. And when you think about why it might happen, it's what happens when people are stuck at home, no jobs, no resources. But what's interesting about New York City today, when you look at the NYPD data today, is that they show you that year to date today, there's actually not an increase in homicides in New York City. So I say this to say that so much of what I think people continue to get caught on is misinformation. That when you look at the NYPD's own data, right, they show you that crime is down at the 11-year, at the 20-year. And that is true across the board when we look at major cities, that there was a momentary.
But DeRay, I just want to ask a nuanced data question here. Year to date from last year, there's not an increase, but the increase came from 19 to 2020. Am I right? Wasn't there a spike in 19 to 2020, and now we're just kind of leveled off for 2021?
Oh yeah. But that goes with what I'm saying is that. People talk about the spike as if it was a continual moment. It wasn't. There was one spike that happened in almost every major city in America. It has never happened in the data like that ever. For as long as we've had crime data, we've never seen homicide spike almost unilaterally across the country. That happened one time and it has fallen. That is not what's happening today. So when Eric talks about a plainclothes unit today, there is not a spike in homicides today.
Good point.
Hawk, what the picture coming out of your meeting with the mayor-elect was hostility. What do you see as the path forward for New York, and also as New York as a model for the rest of the country? What we know is that very often what happens in New York gets exported to other places.
Mm-hmm. This is why it's so important that we put pressure on Eric Adams, right? Because as DeRay said, he ran a scare type of campaign, like crime is coming for you. If you don't elect me, you'll be vulnerable. Things that we've seen with Bush when we had those different variations of the terror alert, what, Donald Trump was promoting to suburban mothers, like we're not going to move the projects right next door to you. But what we spoke about with Eric Garner was something like getting our kids into mindfulness and meditation, creating programs for them, taking people who are caught in these cycles of public assistance, caught in these housing complexes, and giving them the job skills they need to gain independence. One of the things that he commented on was my advocacy against the food apartheid, and I would work with him on getting healthy plant-based food our communities. There is a space for Eric Adams to be great, or he could just be another politician.
Right. DeRay, there has been an analysis done of all major police departments across the country after the defund the police movement became active, and they found that many of those police departments not only did not reduce their funding, they increased it. Many of the people who are in office are now talking about increasing the number of officers on the street. President Biden himself has even said that we need more police officers on the street, that somehow all of these people talk about training being a solution, even if you put more bodies on the street. Do you see a problem with this idea of rushing to fill a void that they say exists with more officers?
Yeah, so it is unfortunate that so many cities decided to increase their police budgets in the past year, and there is not good evidence to suggest that more police equals less crime. If anything, what's so fascinating about this spike in homicides is that it coincides with record levels of policing in cities across the country. That even in places where we see crime spiking, where it might even spike at the week to week, they are unbelievably staffed departments. Even Rikers, you look at Rikers. Rikers has 5,000 people detained at Rikers, and there are 8,000 guards. It is the best staffed jail in the United States, and yet still the corrections union wants 2,000 more guards. This isn't actually about safety. This is about union power for the corrections union. This is about more people being police officers, regardless of public safety, but it's actually not about keeping communities safe.
Thank you.
I have like 1 minute left. I want to kind of follow up on that question with you. What we find is once they add police officers, it's very hard to get them to trim those ranks back down. They will find something for those officers to do, even if crime falls. And what they end up finding for them to do is to go after lower and lower and lower level crimes, and that disproportionately impacts black people. How do you see this push to put more officers on the street?
Well, here's what's going to happen. There's going to be more antagonization. There's going to be more brutality. Inevitably, there's going to be murder. Now, we stand as a vanguard in our communities. It is nothing new for us to interject ourselves into hostile situations between police and our brothers and sisters in our community. So the fight really continues against white supremacy, in essence. It's just being embodied by a black mayor now.
DeRay Mckesson and Hawk Newsome, thank you so much for joining me tonight.